When the Harper family packed their belongings into a U-Haul and left behind the noise and chaos of Detroit, it felt like the beginning of a dream. James and Rebecca Harper, along with their 2 young children, Ellie and Max, were chasing a vision, a quiet life in a peaceful community nestled in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. James had landed a stable job as a mechanic, and Rebecca was offered a remote teaching position. They found a charming 2-story Victorian home in the town of Ashmore, population 1,402. Ashmore looked like a postcard: flower-lined streets, a vintage movie theater, a town square where children played freely. But what the Harpers didn't know was that beneath the town's quaint surface, something dark pulsed quietly, something ancient and deeply rooted in silence. The home on Willow Creek Lane was everything they'd hoped for: affordable, spacious, and far removed from urban noise. The realtor, a soft-spoken woman named Ms. Edith Kane, had emphasized its vintage character and assured them it had a clean history. But on their second night, Rebecca heard footsteps above their bedroom, even though no one was upstairs. James dismissed it as the house settling. Then came the rustling in the attic. The Harpers were quickly welcomed by their neighbors, a retired couple named Frank and Dottie, who brought over a pie and asked peculiar questions. "You moved here on purpose? Did they tell you about the others?" When Rebecca asked what they meant, Dottie laughed it off. "Just old people gossip." The local sheriff, Clay Barlow, stopped by the next day to introduce himself. He was charming but evasive, especially when James mentioned the strange noises in the house. Sheriff Barlow simply smiled and said, "This town has a way of testing newcomers." One afternoon, while rearranging furniture in the master bedroom, Rebecca noticed a loose floorboard. Underneath was a small, leather-bound journal. It belonged to a woman named Marie Hensley, who had lived in the house nearly a decade ago. The entries started off cheerfully, then grew frantic. "I hear them at night. Whispers. They say my name. The town smiles too much. It's not real." Her final entry read, "If you're reading this, leave. Don't let them in." Rebecca took the journal to the town library. The librarian, Mrs. Lowe, grew pale at the mention of Marie Hensley. "That name hasn't been spoken in years," she whispered. "She was mentally unwell, claimed people were watching her, claimed the town was hiding something. One night she just disappeared. No trace. Sheriff said she left on her own." But Rebecca could feel it in her bones. Marie hadn't just left. She had been erased. By the 3rd week, the children were afraid to sleep alone. Ellie said a woman stood at her doorway each night, humming. Max spoke of the shadow man in the closet. James finally agreed to check the attic. They found an old rocking chair. On it, carved into the wood, were dozens of names. Marie Hensley was one of them. James installed security cameras around the house. The next morning, the footage was gone, the hard drive wiped clean. When he went to the sheriff, Barlow raised an eyebrow. "We don't really use those things around here. Makes folks paranoid." Later that night, James saw someone standing outside their house in the pouring rain. He ran outside. No one was there, but the front door was now open, and Rebecca swore she had locked it. Determined to understand what was happening, Rebecca filed a public records request. Days later, she received an anonymous manila envelope. Inside were photocopied missing person reports. 12 families had moved into that same house over the last 35 years. All 12 had vanished. While grocery shopping, Rebecca was approached by a thin, elderly man with cloudy eyes. "They're watching you," he said. "You moved into that house. They always come for the children first." Before she could respond, he shuffled away. James and Rebecca ripped open a wall behind a built-in bookshelf. There was a hidden room, soundproofed, windowless, filled with old toys, broken furniture, and scratch marks on the walls. A single photograph sat on a dusty desk, a family of 4, smiling in front of the Willow Creek home. On the back, it read, "The Brennans, 1992. No such family appeared in town records." In the town records room, James found an old newspaper clipping folded into a dusty Bible. The headline read, "Ashmore votes to stay silent. The pact renewed, dated 1953. The article mentioned an agreement between the town council and an unnamed benefactor in exchange for protection, prosperity, and peace. No names, no details, just a photo. The town square, newly paved, surrounded by smiling residents with hollow eyes. Rebecca circled the word pact. Ellie and Max began drawing disturbing pictures. Figures with no faces, a house swallowed by trees, and a tall, thin man with fingers like branches. When Rebecca asked about them, Max said, "They tell us stories from the creek. They live under the roots. They want us to come play." That night, the family dog vanished. They found its collar at the edge of Willow Creek. The Harpers snuck into the old church after midnight. Hidden beneath a loose tile in the altar was a trapdoor. James descended with a flashlight. It led to a tunnel cold, damp, and lined with wooden masks. At the end was a stone table stained and scorched. He found initials carved into the wall. MHRABBJH. Rebecca realized, Marie Hensley. The Brennans. Were these sacrifices? A flyer appeared in their mailbox. Mandatory town assembly, Ashmore Square. Attendance required. The entire town gathered. Everyone smiled, but no one spoke. Sheriff Barlow stood beside a hooded figure with a cane. Rebecca could swear it was the man from the market. The figure looked directly at her. "Outsiders bring chaos," he rasped. "We restore balance. Always." James gripped her hand. "We need to run." The next day, the journal Rebecca had hidden in a locked drawer was gone. In its place, ashes and a single word scorched into the wood beneath. "Stay." They booked a hotel in the next town. But when they tried to leave, their car's engine was gutted. The tow truck never arrived. Sheriff Barlow stopped by, smiling. Trouble always seems to find those who try to leave. Rebecca tracked down Edith Kane, the realtor. When confronted, Edith broke down. "They make us sell the house. Keep the cycle going. If we don't, they take our own. I tried to quit once. My grandson vanished that night." She handed Rebecca a key. "The bell tower, the original church. You need to see what's up there." Inside the old church's rotting bell tower, they found more names carved into wood. Some were crossed out. Others, like E, Harper and M. Harper, were freshly etched. A mirror leaned against the far wall, but the reflection was wrong. The tower was empty. Yet in the glass stood the same faceless figures from Max's drawings. Behind them, the Harpers, sleeping. Ashmore held an annual festival. Games, music, and food lined the town square. But something felt off. Children wore strange masks. Townspeople whispered to them in a language the Harpers couldn't understand. That night, the town's power cut out. From their window, the Harpers watched as torches gathered in the street, marching silently toward their home. Desperate, James remembered the old well behind the house. They pried off the rusted lid and climbed down. The air grew colder the deeper they went. At the bottom, a cavern, and in it, rows of dolls nailed to the stone. Each wore a name tag. Each one matched a missing family. And at the far end, a shrine made of children's shoes. That night, a note appeared on Ellie's pillow in the same handwriting as Marie's journal. "Your names are already written. You have 3 days. After that, the town comes for blood." Rebecca screamed, but no one heard her, because for the first time since moving to Ashmore, the night was completely, utterly silent. Even the whispers had stopped. Rebecca discovered a torn page from an ancient diary in the bell tower's rafters. It described a ritual dating back to 1782, when Ashmore's founders made a blood pact with a forest entity to protect their crops and children. Every generation, newcomers were offered in exchange. The Harpers weren't the first, they were just the latest. Edith Kane came to their home under cover of darkness, face pale, voice shaking. "I've watched 16 families go through this. The town promised my safety, but it's never free. You have to replace yourselves if you want to escape. Find another family to move in. That's the only way." Rebecca recoiled. "We'd be damning someone else." Edith nodded. "Like I did to you." James returned to the underground chamber and confronted the hooded figure. It introduced itself as the Keeper. "You may leave," it rasped, "but the debt must be paid." "What debt?" "The lives spared by your arrival. The town was dying. You fed it. Balance must remain." The Keeper extended a bone-white hand. "Bring us another, or stay forever." A mysterious envelope arrived on their porch. Inside was a hand-drawn map of Ashmore, marking hidden paths, underground tunnels, and a red X near the base of Willow Creek. The note read, "I escaped once. Follow this map. Burn it after reading." Signed, M.H. Marie Hensley. The red X led them to the elementary school's boiler room. Beneath it was a tunnel lined with children's drawings, depictions of monstrous trees devouring people. They found skeletal remains, and a pendant with the initials CD, Caroline Dorsey, a girl who vanished in 1989. Ellie began to speak in a voice that wasn't hers. At night, she recited names of the lost. During the day, she painted images she'd never seen. Rituals, hooded processions, and blood. Rebecca recorded it. When she played the footage back, Ellie's mouth never moved. Max brought Rebecca a crayon drawing. It showed their family running toward the edge of Ashmore, chased by stick figures with no eyes. When she blinked, the figures had moved. She tore the drawing in half. That night, Max screamed, "There's something in my wall now." They broke into the town hall's records vault. In a locked drawer marked Origin, they found tapes, film reels. One reel showed a 1949 meeting, elders deciding who to offer next. The crowd nodded, smiling. Names were drawn from a box. Marie's parents were among the smiling ones. A woman named Delilah Monroe approached them. "I lost my daughter to this place. I've been waiting for someone to fight back." She offered to distract the town during the harvest moon, giving them a chance to run. But Delilah warned, "If they catch you, it won't be quick." Under the church crypt was a seal marked with runes. Delilah said it bound the entity to Ashmore. James shattered it with a sledgehammer. The air screamed. For the first time, it rained in Ashmore blood. The next night, the moon turned crimson. Townspeople gathered in robes, humming the same lullaby Ellie heard in her dreams. Rebecca held her children tight. The entity would come now. It always did on the blood moon. They made a break for it. As they fled through the woods, flames erupted behind them. The town burned their house. Sheriff Barlow stood at the edge of the flames, watching, smiling. They reached the highway. A bus stop stood alone in the night. A schedule posted. The next ride due in 10 minutes. It never arrived. The ground beneath them shook. Following the map's final clue, they reached an unmarked field. Dozens of stones bore no names, only numbers. Delilah whispered, "This is where they bury those who resist, who remember." Rebecca called her sister in Detroit. "We need help." Her sister paused. "Who is this?" "I'm Rebecca." "I don't know any Rebecca." Ashmore had begun to erase them. In a clearing beyond Willow Creek, they found the heart of the forest. A tree grown into human form, roots like veins, pulsing. Carved into it were faces, frozen in terror. Rebecca set it on fire. As the tree burned, the townspeople screamed. The entity appeared, towering, skeletal, weeping black sap. Pointed a branch at Rebecca. "You break the pact. You owe blood." Delilah stepped forward. "Take me." The entity hesitated, then accepted. A blast of light. Silence. The trees stopped whispering. At dawn, a truck passed. First vehicle in weeks. The driver stopped. "You folks lost." James nodded. For a long time, they left Ashmore. No one followed. In their new apartment, Rebecca opened a blank notebook. "I have to remember," she whispered. "If no one tells the truth, it will happen again." On the first page, she wrote, "They moved for a better life and faced a nightmare instead." The town was gone. As they passed the outskirts days later, nothing remained. No homes, no chapel, not even the crooked sign. Just ash and silence. James wept, not from sorrow, but from disbelief. Rebecca, however, feared what absence really meant. In their new home, Ellie stood in the doorway whispering, "It followed us." Rebecca pressed her ear to the wall and heard faint scratching. The neighbors said no one lived on the other side. Max screamed in the bathroom. Rebecca ran in, only to see him frozen before the mirror. "I'm not in it," he sobbed. In the reflection, he was gone. Package arrived without a return address. Inside, ash, a clump of blackened tree bark, and a note. The roots still reach. James noticed a man watching them. Same coat each time, same empty eyes. When he approached, the man whispered, "3 more must burn, or it all comes back," then vanished into the crowd. Rebecca found one last page tucked into the back of Marie's journal. "Even if you run, it seeds itself in the children. Don't let them draw. Don't let them dream." Rebecca awoke to find Ellie's room covered in symbols drawn in charcoal. "I didn't do it," she whispered. "My fingers moved while I slept." Their television flickered to life at 3:33 a.m. Static. Then, a voice. "Ashmore lives in memory. Feed it or forget." Max's pediatrician pulled Rebecca aside. "There's something off." His blood type changed. "That's impossible." James noticed the heater hissing strangely. When he pried it open, he found tiny roots curled inside. Growing. A website with the symbol from the seal appeared on Rebecca's search history. Forums. Posts about echo towns and rebirth. A new thread. Ashmore NYC chapter begins. Their neighbor, Mrs. Kelling, whispered, "I hear them in the pipes. I was there too." Ashmore, 1967. You can't kill the pact. It moves. Max vanished from his bed. Window locked, door closed. Only a trail of soil led to the hallway. Ellie's handprint was on the wall in blood. Rebecca's phone rang. An old woman sobbing, "Don't let them take him like they took me." Caller ID Marie H. Rebecca traced forum clues to a rooftop meeting. Hooded figures circled a root-wrapped effigy. At the center, Max, asleep, eyes open. James stood between Max and the hooded priest. "We broke the pact." The priest removed his hood. "Sheriff Barlow, you only cracked it." The roots grew back. The crowd chanted. Rebecca offered her own blood. "Take me. Leave my children." The roots quivered but did not retreat. Barlow held out a knife. "Choose another, or it spreads again." Rebecca froze. Could she doom someone else to save her own? She struck the ritual pyre with a flare. Flames engulfed the rooftop. Screams echoed. Max awoke. They ran. They moved again. New names. New town. But Rebecca left Marie's journal behind in an apartment mail slot. Page 1 read, "If you're reading this, it's already watching." In the woods behind their newest apartment, Ellie saw herself, standing between trees, smiling but hollow-eyed. "That's not me," she whispered. Rebecca saw nothing, but the bark had fingerprints. Max's new school had an old jungle gym no one used. Beneath it, a rusted door. Inside, drawings of Ashmore, dozens of children's names, and one marked Max. Ellie began humming a lullaby Rebecca hadn't heard since her own childhood. Her mother had sung it. She had grown up in Ashmore. She had forgotten until now. The television showed their family photo, but with one extra person. A tall, pale man standing behind them. As it flickered, his face changed. Barlow, then Marie, then something inhuman. Every morning, Max's closet door was ajar, no matter how often they locked it. One morning, a note inside, "Let him go. He's promised." James dreamed of the Ashmore Chapel, restored and filled with light. But when he approached the altar, he saw Ellie nailed there, still smiling. Their elderly neighbor knocked at 2 a.m. "You didn't finish it," she said, handing them a scorched page. It matched the seal Marie once carried. "You left the third circle open." James didn't come home from work. His phone left in the car. On the passenger seat, a sprouting branch. Fresh blood on the steering wheel. Max began chanting during sleep. Audio analysis revealed an ancient dialect, Sumerian roots, mixed with black-masked English. The pact is soil. Blood is rain. 3 hooded strangers appeared in Rebecca's building. Their movements synchronized. Their eyes pitch black. They each left a coin at her door. Rebecca discovered a hallway in the building that didn't exist on blueprints. Inside, a child's room, empty crib, mobile spinning, her name carved in the floor. Ellie screamed during bath time. Roots broke through the drain, wrapping her legs. James burst in just in time. The tub water had turned black. Marie's journal, once burned, now restored itself. A new page, a newspaper clipping dated 6 months ahead. Family of 4 found bound in ritual circle. The photo of them. For 48 hours, Ellie wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep. She wrote symbols in salt and ash. When Rebecca confronted her, Ellie hissed. She opened the 3rd circle. She invited me. A solar eclipse darkened the sky. During those minutes, every shadow in their home reached toward Max. The floorboards groaned with breath. Sheriff Barlow appeared in the hallway mirror. Did you think running again would save you? Rebecca threw a hammer. Glass shattered, but laughter echoed. Rebecca traced the cult's online movement to one name, S. Whitmore, her mother's maiden name. She was the last original pact keeper, and Rebecca's mother had never truly left Ashmore. A ritual began in Max's room. Fire circled the crib. One must return, the whispers said. Rebecca held her son and her knife. James returned, possessed but alive. He held the 3rd circle's final sigil. Burn the seed, he begged. Inside me. Rebecca kissed him once, then set the flame. The voices ceased. The symbols faded. Ellie drew smiling suns again. Max began to giggle. Rebecca watched the sunrise and whispered, "You don't get to win." But far below, under cracked city pavement, something old stirred. Waiting. While helping Ellie unpack her art supplies, Rebecca found a bone fragment in her box of crayons. Carved into it, her maiden name, Whitmore, etched with something sharp. Every night at 3:07 a.m., 3 knocks echoed from the front door. No one was ever there until one night Max answered, and vanished for 17 minutes. Ellie's mirror showed her brushing her teeth, except the reflection didn't match. It smiled at her when she wasn't smiling. It blinked when she didn't. Family albums began to change. In photos from years ago, unfamiliar faces appeared in the background. One had eyes like Barlow. Another looked like Rebecca. Dark mold grew in the corner of the kitchen ceiling. It pulsed, spread in spirals, and whispered names only Max could hear. He answered in whispers too. A new stairwell appeared in the building overnight. It led downward deeper and deeper. When James descended, he returned with a different voice and ash on his hands. Rebecca broke into the sealed records room of Ashmore Library. Inside, a diary by her mother, filled with dark rites and a line repeated 13 times. The 4th circle awakens. No one had spoken of a 4th, but the signs were there in Ellie's drawings, in the changes in James's eyes. And then the town bells rang at midnight, though Ashmore had no church anymore. Plants in their apartment grew unnaturally fast. Leaves whispered. Roots crawled along the baseboards. It feeds, Ellie said. It needs us to bloom. Construction next door revealed human remains inside a wall. The dental records matched Rebecca's cousin, a woman who had never even visited Ashmore. Each morning, Rebecca heard a bell, first faint, then louder. She traced it to the basement and found a replica of Ashmore's old chapel, built underground. A glowing lantern appeared outside their apartment, made from bone with a candle that never burned out. "It's the beacon," James whispered, "to guide the next family." Ellie drew a figure, tall, limbless, bleeding leaves. That night, Rebecca woke to find it standing at the foot of her bed. Whispers offered a deal. One child would live untouched if the other was given freely. "You've had time to choose," they said. "The gate closes soon." An unmarked cassette arrived in the mail. Marie's voice crackled. "I failed, but you might not. Start the fire in the garden. That's where it's weakest." Rebecca lit the match in their overgrown yard. Roots shrieked. Smoke formed faces. A hole opened beneath the tomato plants. Spiraling, breathing. He confessed he had known. Since they first moved, he had heard his mother's voice calling him back to Ashmore. I was always meant to bring them here. Max found a trapdoor under his bed. When opened, it led to a version of their home. Dark, rotting, silent. In the other world, he found Ellie, alone. With fire, salt, and blood, Rebecca closed the fourth circle. But the cost was her reflection. Forever trapped in the other world, watching. They moved again, this time far from Ashmore. Ellie painted suns again. Max laughed. But sometimes, just as the sun rises, Rebecca sees her reflection blink out of sync. On their first morning in the new town, a breeze carried ashes across their porch. Ellie touched one and whispered, "It remembers." Max biked past a street that didn't exist on any map. At its end stood a house, an exact replica of their Ashmore home. Inside, shadows moved. In the new town, the ice cream truck only played music after midnight. Max followed it and found the driver staring into nothing, mouthing, "Don't wake her." Ellie took Polaroids of the backyard. They developed, showing different times. One with Rebecca sleeping under a tree that hadn't grown yet. A sealed letter arrived, postmarked 3 years ago. It was from Marie. "You moved, but so did it. Don't plant anything." A clock on the living room wall ticked, though it had no hands. Its ticking grew louder at night, aligning with Ellie's sleepwalking. Max found a boarded-up window in the attic. When he looked through a crack, he saw the old Ashmore chapel, burning in reverse. Ellie found her old doll, Lucy, buried in the backyard. Except they had left Lucy behind. Its eyes had changed color, and it whispered at night. Their neighbor, Mrs. Lind, was friendly but had no shadow. Rebecca followed her one morning and watched her dissolve into the woods. James looked in the mirror and saw nothing. Not even the room, just a black void. Ellie said, "That's where Daddy went when he was bad." When Rebecca called her old number in Ashmore, someone answered. It was her, but older, tired, begging herself not to move again. Max complained of itching. Rebecca checked and found a black spiral beneath the skin of his back. Pulsed when he heard the knocking again. Despite not planting anything, wild vines grew. At night, they bloomed flowers with eyes in the center. They blinked when spoken to. Every morning, the guest room looked different. Furniture moved. Sometimes, a scent of burned sage. One morning, it had bloodstains. While unpacking, James found an old suitcase in the crawl space. Inside was a man. Alive, smiling, and mouthing, "Not yet." Ellie spoke to someone named Ash. Rebecca assumed it was imaginary until she found 2 bowls at the table and muddy footprints. Every night, the stars returned to the same position from their last night in Ashmore. Rebecca traced constellations and found them forming a name, Barlow. Marie's journal, sealed with wax, cracked open on its own. Inside, drawings of the new town years before they arrived. The roots were always deeper here. One morning, the basement was flooded, ankle-deep, black water. Beneath the surface, silhouettes moved. James said, "They're looking for her." A white envelope arrived on their doorstep. Gold ink. The cycle completes. One must return to Ashmore, or the town will come to you. A man appeared in town claiming to be a clockmaker. He gave Ellie a silver pocket watch and said, "You'll know when to stop time, but only once." Rebecca found a journal page stuck to her shoe, Barlow's handwriting. It read, "You never left. You just changed the view." The town hosted a harvest celebration, but no one could remember organizing it. And all the pies were filled with petals from the Garden of Eyes. Max returned from school confused. His teacher called, said Max had never arrived. The one in their house wouldn't look Rebecca in the eyes. One spare bedroom became covered in children's art overnight. Each painting had mouths and screamed when touched. Rebecca met the town's mayor but couldn't find his name in any registry. Locals said he'd been mayor for centuries. Since before the houses grew. Ellie opened the fridge to grab juice. Inside the egg carton, 5 brown eggs, and a severed finger with Rebecca's wedding ring. At midnight, Rebecca looked out the window. Everyone on the street was awake, standing still, eyes open, watching her. A leather-bound book appeared on James's nightstand. Every time he opened it, new words formed, detailing what would happen the next day. Max followed a trail of stones behind the house. It formed a spiral that wasn't there yesterday. In the center, he found a photo of Ellie, older. It rained for 3 days. On the windows, images of Ashmore appeared in the droplets. Buildings long gone. Shadows walked through them. A man in a black suit knocked on every door. When he reached theirs, he asked, "Do you have what we left behind?" Every time the hallway closet was opened, a cold gust and howling wind erupted. Ellie said it was where the past breathes. A newspaper arrived each morning, reporting events that hadn't happened yet, until Max read one predicting his own disappearance. Small piles of ash led from the fireplace to the children's beds. Rebecca swept them nightly, but they always returned. While digging out a dead shrub, James struck something hard, a living root. It pulsed and whispered, "It's not dead, just buried." Ellie's birthday came, and then again, and again. On the third repeat, she said, "If I don't make a wish, will it stop?" A leak revealed a hollow space below the bathroom. Inside, a mattress, bones, and a journal that ended with, "She's watching from the mirror." New neighbors moved in, twins who looked just like Max and Ellie. They never spoke, only stared and mimicked. Rebecca dreamed of the whisper contract again. This time, the voices offered her a new deal: trade the past for silence. But silence meant forgetting, even her children. Rebecca found a scorched envelope on the front porch. Inside was a charred invitation to her own funeral, dated tomorrow. Every time Rebecca tried to move a piece of furniture, the house moved it back. It wasn't preserving style, it was preserving memory. James stared into the bathroom mirror and his reflection didn't blink. Then it whispered, "You're not the father here. He is." Each day, Ellie's voice grew fainter. By the third day, she mouthed words but made no sound. Her drawings showed a woman with sewn lips. Barlow appeared in Rebecca's dream, skin stitched crudely. "You broke the pact. Now the town reclaims its debt." Rebecca ripped up the garden where the eyes bloomed. Under the soil, she found teeth, hundreds, some with braces, none adult-sized. Ashmore's streets rearranged themselves every dusk. No GPS worked. Street signs spelled out warnings in Latin. One night, the attic door slowly creaked open. Inside, blueprints of their house with the words containment zone stamped in red. The landline rang, first time in months. On the other end, Max's voice, sobbing. "Mom, I'm still in the spiral. That's not me with you." Rebecca attended a town meeting. The members had empty eye sockets and spoke in unison. Renewal must come through sacrifice. Max discovered a mirror in the school basement that shimmered like water. When he touched it, he vanished for 10 hours and came back older. Ellie drew a woman in a black veil watching them from every window. Her name, Mara, the original whisperer, a spirit bound to collect broken deals. Faced with a vision of losing his family forever, James entered the woods with the pocket watch. He wound it once. Everything froze. While time stood still, Rebecca raced through the spiral, dragging Max's real self back before the watch ticked again. The fake Max disintegrated. In the roots beneath the house, they found Mara's journal. It spoke of her betrayal by the town. A healer branded a witch. Her revenge, eternal manipulation. Rebecca tore the final page from the whisper contract and bled onto it. The ink rewrote the ending, trading her life for her family's escape. As the town tried to reclaim them, the ground cracked, swallowing the council building and mayor's mansion. Screams echoed as roots devoured the streets. Instead of claiming Rebecca, Mara saw Ellie's drawing, of her smiling. Touched, she dissolved into ash. "Let the innocent live," she whispered. The town of Ashmore vanished behind them. Rebecca, James, Max, and Ellie drove until GPS returned. Behind them, nothing but forest. At home, far away from Ashmore, Rebecca placed the silver pocket watch on the mantel. It no longer ticked. On its back, etched words, "Debt paid in full." Stay tuned for more chilling cases on Cold Case Chronicles, where the truth is always darker than fiction. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to Cold Case Chronicles. We dive deeper into the most chilling, unsolved mysteries, and together, we uncover what was left behind. Like, share, and leave a comment below. We want to hear your thoughts. Stay vigilant. Stay curious. The truth never rests.